Welcome to The Code. Construction, design, and engineering. This is India's #1 construction podcast.
So, Shivang, you're the second generation at Vastunidhi. What do you think is harder, building a legacy or evolving one without actually breaking it?
I think I'd say evolving one without actually breaking the legacy is much harder. Uh, I mean, looking back at how my parents have built the organization, they've spent 3 decades on it pretty much, and it's hard to sort of set sort of into the scheme of things, understand things, and then obviously there's the huge burden and the responsibility that you have to take forward in terms of that you have to live up to their expectations, if not the clients first. And then obviously you have to live up to the client's expectations as well in terms of designing what sort of is relevant to the trend. And also looking at the perspective that, okay, there are certain things that they have done, for which they are getting the clients, for which the clients are coming back to them and getting the work done from them. And if I'm not able to live up to their expectations, my clients' expectations, and deliver on what they have been doing or build upon it further, then I am not I'm sort of not very relevant in the organization.
I am of a school of thought which is different, even though I come from a similar legacy as yours. I run a third generation business. While the pressure is real, I think a lot of people do point out the privilege that we have. कि यार तूने तो करा है, मिला है ना. My dearest friends have said this to me, and then I realize, okay, who a true friend or actually is or not. But my point is, I do think that sometimes starting your own thing would have been easier. Like you said, maintaining something which exists is a challenge. For sure, because of the weight of the expectations that you maybe honestly have or not. कई बार क्या होता है हम build कर लेते हैं ना अपने दिमाग में कि यार there is this weight of that expectation on our shoulders.
Yeah.
Sometimes there is none, and it's something that we build for ourselves because we really want to deliver.
Right.
But especially in today's day and environment, I think starting something from scratch and then actually keeping it afloat and then actually going on and building something for like 30-35 years and giving it your life, ज़्यादा challenging है मुझे लगता है.
I mean, 100%. I mean, well, I hear people saying this to me, like you said as well, that, you've got it, sab kara karaya mila hai, and there are certain things that you've got on a plate, served on a platter. Yes, it's 100% more challenging if I would have built this from scratch, or for anybody actually who is building it from scratch. There are certain things you inherit. There are certain things that, so to say, run in your blood, and you're actually building upon them, But at the same time, yes, there is that liberty as well, because you're coming from a position of power from day 01. And you have that liberty to take whatever decisions you want with it.
Anything you do is not wrong.
Yeah.
In that condition, you've not got nothing to lose.
Yeah, but here you have certain degree of control coming in from the upper generation, wherein, okay, you are bound by certain restrictions and stuff, and there are certain policies or the certain frameworks that the company or the practice itself has developed within which you're supposed to work in.
And even if you don't have that, those set of rules, and maybe you create your own, there is always that in the back of your mind that, you know what, I've got this.
Yeah.
I've been given this. I hope I don't fuck up. It's all there, actually. Awesome. So working with your parents, Anil and Shallu Bansal, right? How often do debates at the dining table turn into design reviews?
Okay, it's been 5.5 years now since I've been working with them. There have been ups and downs. Obviously, there have been design discussions and debates happening over lunch or dinner or whatever. To be honest, why I got into architecture were these lunchtime discussions or dinner discussions that used to happen at home. So our office happens to be right above the house, and my parents would come down for lunch and they'd be there for dinner as well. So all the time they'd be talking about their projects, and I was kind of interested into it. Although at some point I was like, engineering karna hai, architecture nahi karna hai, because I had seen the struggle, I'd seen them working like mad. I was like, I don't want to get into this. But then, while I was in the 11th and 12th grade, towards the end of 12th, I was like, okay, let's just give this a shot. Let's just give the JEE part 2. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And I got into SPA. I was like, okay, let's just pull back from engineering. Let's go here, because life just seemed a little easier. Let's be very honest.
Yeah.
And I was not the kind of a person who had that much courage to build something of my own. But at the same time, I think I'm a person who cannot work under somebody. Like I'm very opinionated when it comes to my work. So it's hard for me to function in that sense. So now when coming back to your question, when you say how I have functioned with my parents having lunchtime discussions, we do not do design reviews over lunch or dinner at all anymore, because I said we're not bringing the baggage back home. Let's keep it to the office. There are discussions about business development and outreach and all those kind of things, but that we do have at home. But when it's design, it's usually inside the studio on the table. That's why we discuss design. And progressively over the last few years, we've started to become more independent in our ways of designing, because don't want those clashes happening. So if dad's taking over a project, it's his design. Mom's an expert in healthcare, so she looks after the healthcare aspect of things. And while I am developing a certain design, I don't usually go up to them and I'm like, okay, I'm doing this, please stay out of it. And uh, it's tried since 2024, since last year, they've actually given me that liberty. Ki, "ठीक है, कर ले यार, क्या ही कर लेगा?" I mean, ultimately, you might just end up doing something wrong, but we're there to sort of, pull you out of it. So go for it. So, and
Even if they don't, I mean, you learn some.
I mean, I think I can handle the client. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what you've been trained for, right? You come from a premier institute. I don't think there is a lack of any sort of an opportunity right there itself. Do you ever feel the pressure to live up to, your family or Vastunidhi's legacy? Or not anymore? Do you think not anymore?
Not anymore. I mean, it was there for the first couple of years, certainly, because I mean, I hadn't shouldered this burden of responsibility on me. I wasn't sure if I'll be able to take it up. But today, after having spent more than 5 years, like I said, I think it's fine. It just comes naturally to me.
Do you think after 5-6 years you still have to like take permissions or get an okay from them?
Not even today.
Awesome, great. So you studied at SPA Delhi
Mm-hmm.
and the Bartlett. How did that global exposure change your lens when you returned to India?
So, okay, a huge shift in focus when you look at SPA or foreign universities is what I feel is that in the Indian context, in the Indian education, so to say, constructability is a major aspect of things. So when you go to architecture schools in India, the primary focus in SP also was how will you build this building, you know? So there has to be a structural grid to things, there has to be columns in place, and you cannot do so many things like in a crazy manner, because they might not work out, and they might not be able to structurally withstand the design, basically, so to say. However, when I went to the Bartlett, what was different there was I did a computational urban design course, so it was anyway very fluid. It involved a lot of coding and stuff, which was something that I'd never done in the last 5 years. And whenever we would come up with a design, my perspective would come in with some sense of structure, some sense of MEP services going into the scheme, and I would say my tutor would just say, "What are you doing? We don't need all this. We have structural designers to do this, and we have MEP service engineers to do this." And that changed my perspective in the sense that, okay, we're just talking about architecture here. They don't care about the structures and the MEP. And that sort of liberated me in a sense that I could go crazier with my design, and the structure and the MEP could kick in later. Okay. So how that is reflected upon my design methodologies today is that when the first 2-3 weeks of the design, we're not really thinking too much about the structures and the MEP. We go crazy a little bit, a little overboard when it comes to doing a concept. But after that, we try to put in the structures and see how it works, the engineers, yes. And that has actually sort of helped us out in doing certain designs which are a little offbeat, let's just say.
Do you think buildability or constructability is better outside compared to the country right now? Do you think you can do wild designs? Let's call them wild for the lack of a better word. Do you really think that you have that design freedom in India? Or do you think you have more freedom when it comes to more developed nations?
Oh, like I said, I think it's more because of the education system here. The syllabus has not been updated since almost a couple of decades. Now they're progressively updating things, getting in BIM and or AI or other kinds of softwares.
Are they?
In SPA was actually had actually started elective courses on computation and BIM. And there are certain other universities like Sushant, or there's a computational architecture course in BNCA Pune, which is an all-girls college, by the way. And they actually tried to bring in computational design into education.
Okay.
So it's not just about computation, like like you said, for the lack of a better word, creating a wild design.
Yeah.
The moment you stop thinking about MEP structures and just go about the design as a subject, and actually just look at the functional needs of the project and what you want as an aesthetic, you can actually come up with something which is relatively offbeat, different, or more sort of, let's just say, coming in from a developed nation perspective.
Fair.
While India is being called a developing nation, pretty much there, all our urban cities are very developed. Let's just say that. And architects are all educated equally as the Westerners. So we can actually get there. It's not a big deal.
There was a talk I attended by Karan Thapar gave it, and I think they were felicitating Hafiz Contractor in that meeting. It was organized by Tata Steel at one of these swanky hotels in Delhi. But it was a celebration of Hafiz Contractor's years into architecture. He was telling a story about how they were on a flight together. And on a newspaper, he just scribbled something. Hafiz just picked up took out his pen, scribbled something which was like very abstract and very weird looking. And Karan said, "What are you doing?" Like, "Yeah, I think this is going to be 10 lakh square feet somewhere in, I don't know, Dharwad or whatever." Um, and it was just like a squiggly drawing. And he actually showed that image while the presentation was going on. Then he asked him a question: "Do you really think this can be built?" I'm relating that thought now after like 10 years of hearing that. And he said, "We'll figure it out." Uh, and then Karan asked him, "Who gave you this freedom? How did you get this freedom today to like just sketch anything on a paper and say, we will figure it out?" It's like you have to earn it over the years.
Yeah.
You get the best partnerships from across the globe. You get the right people who become your friends or the collaborators that come in together. This is not a one man's job. You get the right MEP guy, you get the right structural engineering guy, you get the right contractor in place, you get the right facade engineering, you get the right every kind of team, even to that smallest unit that's required within that establishment. And it is something that just remained with me. And by the way, the podcast happened 2 years back. It's just these, meetings that you've attended or these conferences you've attended, and it just some thought just stick by you, and it just gets reminded to you at the right time when we are talking about it. Do you think can tradition and modernity coexist in architecture without one diluting the other?
I mean, it depends on how we're interpreting tradition and modernity. Okay. There are certain design schemes that, I mean, there are out there in the market as well, which are a good blend of tradition and modernity, where you're actually taking cues from the tradition, the vernacular architecture, and taking elements from that, but interpreting them in a modern way. And I would say that actually essentially is a tradition. I mean, tradition wedding modernity. You're not just picking elements and pasting them. You're actually interpreting them in a modern sense and then using them.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's quite well said, actually. Um, I Let's rethink a little about the urban India and NCR is dense, chaotic, and even like aspirational all at once.
Yeah.
What's the biggest flaw in how our cities are growing today? Mhm.
Well, what I feel, uh, the biggest flaw and according to me, is the way our roads are planned. We are designing buildings for 70 years. That's what the rule book says mostly. That maybe the National Building Code, that most of the buildings are supposed to be designed for 50 or 70 years.
Yeah.
However, the road network that we plan, are we really envisioning 50 years down the line or 70 years down the line? Because we build a roadways project today. It takes about 7 to 10 years for the construction to get completed, given the delays that we have in the government sector. And 10 years hence, the traffic situation is very different.
Okay.
So we built a Barapula, which is a 6-lane sort of a highway, 3-lane on each side. And today, if we see it's sort of crowded. There are traffic jams happening. It just opened, say 10 years back.
Yeah.
But if you were actually planning something which was really futuristic, why couldn't we plan roads which were wider? Because the Barapula was getting built once.
Yeah.
Why couldn't we plan it with 4 more lanes so that it could serve the traffic 20 years hence or 30 years hence? So what I feel, this thing that I came across was, I think somewhere in New York when we went for a field trip from the Bartlett. In the Indian cities, what you have is something called a floor area ratio, which is called the FAR. And FAR governs how tall or how much you can build on a certain plot. So if I look at a Noida, we have an FAR of 4 on a commercial plot, which is basically you can build 4x the plot area. Okay. In Delhi, for a group housing, you have 3x when you're going for a redevelopment model or something like that. So you can build a 3x on the plot area. What in Europe, in Manhattan specifically, you have is something called a road area ratio and not a floor area ratio. Okay. So what they're actually governing how much you can build by the quantum of width you have on the road.
Interesting.
And there are no boundary bonds if you see in Manhattan. They're not gated complexes. They're all open complexes. They're
So block by block here.
right. So if I'm actually going taller, I need to leave more space on the ground. A, for the road to get widened. B, for the public to move. because I'm actually getting in so many people into the city or adding more people into the city.
Okay.
So there could be a concept wherein the boundary walls get eliminated eventually, which cannot be done today. But if a new city is coming up, say a new Noida is coming up or whatever, we come up with this whole idea where the roads are widened as per the building height or the quantum of building that we're building on the plot. I think we could be in a better position. So the urban planning part of things has to merge with the architectural design side of things, which is largely missing here, in India.
But it'll have to be done road first, right?
Road first, but the rules should be such that if a person is building more, he needs to leave a plot, put certain percentage of the plot and give it to the road.
The more I discuss about urban planning and the more I actually talk about our modern Indian cities, I do understand that we are failing at a policy level like miserably. And it's easy for me to like just sit and comment saying, okay, we are failing. I don't have any solutions to offer. But it's like, it's people like you I ask these questions to because that's my point of reference, right? Especially the youth. Having traveled, having had that international exposure, having conversed with a lot more visionaries within the industry, I think you guys can really formulate this and just pitch to the government. I do understand that there have been heartbreaks when it comes to the government as well sometimes. There are some agencies which overlook your vision. There are some agencies who just don't understand it. But I think as the time goes on and as younger people keep evolving within those organizations, visions will change. One of the nicest corporations that I've come to meet is BMTPC. It's building material technology and whatnot. And the chairman, Mr. Shailesh Agarwal, is like, he's a sweetheart, man. Like he's a close to 60-year-old gentleman. And I think he's more modern than most millennials I know. Even Gen Z. He is so forward looking. He's very inclusive. So I do think that even at government agency levels, you will see this shift. And I hope things can get better at policy level as well. And what you said is like quite interesting, I will look up RAR and, I probably would want to understand a little bit more about it as we move on. You've spoken about dignified density. And a city like, do you think it's possible in a place like Noida to have that? Or do you think it's a utopian idea?
Well, interesting question, firstly. I think dignified density, as utopian as it sounds, is not something which is not possible to
Do
achieve.
you want to define it first for the people to understand what we're talking about?
Let's just say having density and at the same time retaining a sense of dignity when you sort of do a design, Lots of times, I mean, I would not say, as utopian as it sounds, I wouldn't say it is something which is not possible to achieve. What we feel is that there are lots of times when the client comes to you asking, or rather comes to you with a certain design brief. And the architect usually just starts sketching on that or developing on that brief that, okay, this is the brief, this is what he wants, let's just do it. Something that I learned from my father was, and I still learned this from him, is that he's always questioning the brief, and lots of times when we're having discussions with the client, he's basically telling them, aapko ye nahi banana chahiye. You should build this, because that's what I feel as an architect or as something who can envision things beyond time. For example, let's just talk about a residential group housing. A client comes up with the idea ki, let's just make flats which are say 2,500 square feet, which could be like some nice 3 BHKs or 4 BHKs. And that is like, for this particular space, for this particular city, or this particular location that you have where you own the plot, it's a prime plot. Why don't you go for something which is 6,000 square feet and still a 4 BHK? And the client comes back saying, nahi, ticket size nahi hai, or we wouldn't find buyers for this. And I think what you're saying is very far-sighted, but we don't think we'll be able to sell it. We don't have the confidence, right? And you go back to them and say that, sleep over it. Take some time, think about it. Because the moment you go to a 6,000 square feet flat, you're technically building half the number of houses, correct? Right? And on the same plot of land where I was actually planning to build, say, 500 houses, where I would have had 2,000 people, I'm actually building 250 homes, correct? And half the number of people, So what effectively happens is you are reducing the density. However, you're building the same quantum of area. And obviously, when there are lesser number of people living on that parcel of land, they have a better sense of dignity.
Yeah.
Because they're on that land, they have that sense of ownership. They have bigger flats, they have bigger territories, they have bigger spaces within that land. And obviously you feel pride. You feel a sense of pride when you own that particular flat.
It feels a premium as well. I mean, compared to the surroundings that might be there. Why are you living with the law? Why don't we go against the grain and try something different and give your buyer also something unique for that area, right?
And that is what a DLF is doing. He would not build something less than a 5,000 square feet in phase 5, say you are the Camellias and others.
Correct.
And that is what is now sort of coming into Noida. It's a ripple effect. But now you see Noida and Greater Noida also having larger flats because people have that sense of affordability now.
Now people are paying premium for their properties.
Yeah.
Just for that. It's actually unfathomable for people sitting outside who don't get this.
Yeah.
Most of the people don't get why that feels more luxury compared to anything else.
True.
And the reason is right there, what we discussed, dignified density. Interesting. Many Indian developments, they look like Western replicas, right? Do you think we are ignoring our own urban realities?
In Delhi, for instance, has always had that traditionally we had that Indo-Saracenic architecture is what we call it, where we have had some Western influence and some Indian influence bringing in together because we were anyway ruled by the English, who had their own sense of architecture over here. Most of the old buildings which we see today as contemporary architecture of the 20th century is largely done by the Brits, and that had some Indian elements being taken into the architecture, but largely it was something which had come in from the West. So, looking at the overall sense of things, we do have a sense of an urban reality, so to say, which is there in India, and architects do intend to retain it. But lots of times it's the client which comes in and says, a glass box sells. And if I'm doing an IT tower, I want a glass box because if I'm pitching to a grade A plus company or a grade A company, which is like an MNC like Amazon, Microsoft, etc., that is the aesthetic they want, and that is the aesthetic they want to market. But at the same time, having sustainability consultants on board, like you were earlier mentioning, it's a multidisciplinary field, industry now.
Yeah.
Having the right kind of experts on board, glass boxes can also be made sustainable. And you can actually achieve the right kind of EPIs, or for that matter, the right kind of performance parameters, which you would otherwise have.
So basically, you're losing somewhere, but you're gaining somewhere else. Is that what it is? So it's like a balancing of scales in a way.
Precisely. So what we've been doing, like for the government projects, we are always focusing on a more sustainable sort of a format where the aesthetic does not really matter, so to say, because they're not selling their building. They're using it for their own purpose. Correct. So you're using a good mix of stone, insulated windows, and a good insulation on the outside and the exterior envelope as well. And we're able to achieve a certain degree of comfort, which is better than what the glass boxes would have.
Okay.
But when we look at work for the private clients, especially in a mixed use development or an IT development, we are doing glass boxes as well. But at the same time, sustainability consultants are helping us out in achieving the right parameters. And in both cases, it's easy, it's possible to achieve a platinum rating, be it IGBC, be it LEED, or be it even a 4-star. I won't say a 5-star, but certainly a 4-star.
I have my beef. I have my beef against these rating systems, to be honest. I don't think that they are a proof of anything currently in India. एक और चीज होती है, you've built something, you've got the rating, maybe it's well deserved.
Yeah.
At that point. But now when you use that space over the next 5-10 years, things change within that space, which completely toss the whole idea out. The occupants are not aware of what they are, equipped with, how to use it.
Yeah.
And there's no rule book given to anybody. कि boss आपको ये space दे रहे हैं. This is what the rating system has given to this building. This is where you're living. This is how you need to harness it. Second, I personally, if somebody says, okay, this is RIA, whatever, and this is, IGBC, whatever, then I'm like, okay, fine, what? So what?
Fine, yeah.
Sorry, but like 9 out of 10 buildings, I'm like, so what?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there would be like that one establishment that would turn everybody's head and say, okay, interesting. Nothing to take away from people who are working hard. And that's just a harsh opinion to have, and people can actually, go ahead and crucify me for it. I'm okay with that.
Just coming in on this for a bit. So, kind of in agreement that the rating systems are sort of designed for money as well. Because IGBC is a private organization, effectively. There is a certain, I might be called out for saying this out loud here, But yes, the system is designed so that there are people coming in to get those ratings, actively. But at the same time, let's just say this, that we designed a building. I mean, not me. I was still a student then. My firm did. My parents did. This was a hospital in Greater Noida. It's a 500-bed facility, large hospital. And it is a government facility, so obviously there was no mandate for getting such a rating back in those years. Okay, they designed it in somewhere 2007 or 8. Okay, won it through a competition, did the design. The building took about 5-6 years, given the government delays to come up. 2014, we had the building operational. Okay, and the IGBC system or the rating system, when sort of got more sort of awareness in terms of people being more aware about these rating systems being available, was somewhere close to the same age. 2014, 2015 is when people got aware of these rating systems.
Yeah.
Um, and now what we have is like, so we're in a competitive bidding process all the time, because most of the projects that we do in the government sector are run through competitions.
Okay.
What happens there is, now there is a certain pre-requirement that you should have had a Griha rated project or an IGBC rated project, and there are some additional points for it, or it's a mandatory thing that you must have.
Okay.
Now, 2015, my mother decided that, the building's done, the building's operational. And coming back to your point, when you said that when the building is operational, people don't really care. And looking at government employees, they really don't care about the ACs running on and on, to not turning off the lights. And anyway, they're very callous about it, because it's not their money being spent. So we thought, okay, let's just try, let's just give this an attempt. We tied up with Wipro and we said, there is this building, it is designed, we can furnish you whatever drawings you want. We need to get this rated.
Okay.
And operational rating.
Who did the push come from? My mother. Okay.
No, not from the client. The client never wanted it. And the basic drive for the push was that we wanted to get those extra marks for getting into the bidding process. Okay. Because it helps us.
I get it.
Okay. So my mother decided that, okay, we'll talk to Wipro, who was working on another project with us, in a private project. And we said, please help us out, get this rating done. And the building is live, it's operational. Whatever documents you want, we can help you with those. Whatever drawings you want, we can help you with those. We collated all the documents. It took us almost 15 months, I'd say, to collect everything, submit a submission to IGBC, and then also get the electricity bills, get the water bills, get how much renewable energy was being actually generated at site, because we have a solar panel set up on the roof. Okay. And operational ratings are usually tougher than ratings which you get done for buildings which are supposed to come up.
Yeah.
Because they are actually reviewing whatever has been done and how it's sort of.
Now the performance is in place, basically.
Exactly. So now looking at the design, there's certain good amount of stone cladding done outside, good insulation, recessed windows, and a very sustainable sort of a scheme, just G+3. And we got in for the rating, and believe you me, it took them 6 months to review. They visited the site and it got the platinum rating from IGBC. Okay. And till date, if I'm not wrong, I think it's the largest North Indian hospital to have that rating, even in terms of the hospitals being designed today and the ones which are operational. We still stand as somewhere there, that it is one of the biggest.
Interesting. So like I said, so there's always going to be that one establishment which should be like a head turner, and kudos on that ideology and that, achievement. Do you think, should architects take a stand? And we were discussing about, dignified density. Do you think architects should take a stand against client-driven vertical cities, so to say, that ignore human scale?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
While there are certain kind of architects, I'd say, who are just out there to just please the client in a certain way, that, okay, if the client wants a 50-story, I will do it for you. You want a high rise, I'm there to help you out.
More square footage, more for me.
No, I mean, square footage could still be the same, but you could design the same thing in 15 floors as well, because
That feels like an achievement, right? It feels like something, I designed a story.
I've seen architects out in Delhi who were like, claiming and boasting that, I'm doing the tallest development in North India. What for? What are you seeing? At that height, you see nothing here. There's a river which is filthy, and there are grasslands which are almost negligibly there in Delhi. What am I showing to the people out there? Instead, we could build to a scale which is more human, from where I can actually see the landscape, be more connected with nature, be more connected with greens. So, as an essence, we are doing a mixed-use development in Noida, where my client said, sir, we could go to 40 floors, and we could do a single tower.
Yeah.
And we came up with a design where we said, no, we'll do 3 towers, and at an average of 18 floors each. because going tall would mean more time, more construction sort of time period, more money going into construction, because taller you go, it's more expensive and unsustainable as well. Because when you had that land, wherein you can put that area in 18 floors, why go for 40? Correct. It takes some time for the client to digest that, but they graduate. Then they get there. And then obviously the building speaks for itself, because the neighboring plot is having like a 50-story, which is towering up, still nearing completion, while you are doing up to the 24-story, which is done.
Do you think we judge success of a country by the verticality in their buildings?
I wouldn't say so.
I don't know. I think the landscape of people who don't understand the technicality of design or how buildings are built. They're like, "अरे अभी इंडिया में तो इतनी बड़ी buildings बनती नहीं है."
I mean, you look at SF, you look at the Californian Valley, pretty much all the buildings are flat.
Yeah.
Because they have land and they don't need to go that tall.
I mean, that's the fiber of the city that they've sort of preserved in a way.
Exactly. So if we can
The same true for Paris, by the way. The tall towers are all outside the city.
Yeah.
There is that one Montparnasse.
Which is
Yeah, that's the only tall, the black colored building, and it's called the middle finger of Paris, true, by the Parisians.
Yeah. It's that high at Regency today. I mean, so, looking at the Delhi fabric as well, we're redeveloping most of Delhi today, and we're doing as tall as we can, because there is so much residential, demand for residences,
Yeah.
even for the government sector. It would have been better if you could have just built satellite towns where there's abundant land available, and just done like a G+7 or a G+8, which would be more livable. Instead of just going G+30, G+40 in Noida or Delhi. I mean, let's expand the city.
Correct.
So that would have been loads better. Instead of loading the same city, we have the same ring road, inner and outer, with a certain degree of it which cannot extend beyond. So why are we going taller? Why are we increasing the density here?
Yeah.
But as architects, obviously we need money, we need clients. So whatever comes our way, we are happy to do it, just for the sake of, staying afloat.
It's not just the architects to blame there. Yeah, it's a collective responsibility, I would say. Let's get into systems thinking, and let's talk about scale a little bit. How do you design for people you'll never meet? The office worker, the shopkeeper, the child in a housing tower.
Yeah.
How do you approach that?
Well, okay. You barely meet people. You barely meet the end users of the project,
Absolutely.
That's there in a group housing, that's there in mixed use development that we do, that's in a hospital as well. You have to actually put yourself in their shoes effectively and try to understand what each one they would want.
Or do you think it's a mindset that you develop over the time and design like that? Or every building is different?
It is a mindset that you develop over time, but at the same time, there's a new plot, there's a new site, there are certain constraints, and every time you're actually delving deeper into it, you have to put yourself in that perspective, that what would the person feel.
Society is different.
The scale is different, the setback is different. Let's just talk in architectural terms.
Cultural abilities are different.
Everything is different, and you have to actually look at the client's pocket as well.
Culture,
The city.
yeah.
So, and effectively and the bylaws, obviously, which are very varying in every city, and all of those things coupled together, and the nature of people over there and the community, all of that put together, you have to actually get into the shoes of the user and see what they would effectively want. And for example, we do an office development. Lots of people miss out on a crash, and there are two working parents. So I've had working parents all my life, and I was a child who was actually fortunate to have grandparents with me. But there are lots of people who are living alone or in a nuclear setup, and you would actually want to have a crash where you can actually put the kid.
Yeah.
And why would I want it to be in a different place? Why not in the same office development that I have? So it becomes essential to actually have something like a crash over there.
Yeah, this seems like such a basic thing, by the way. They should have done like 20 years back. Today, in fact, we moved on to like bigger social issues now. We're looking at general neutral toilets, yeah, unassigned, right? We are looking at diaper changing rooms for men, yeah, not just for women.
It's there in the Mall of India, I guess. And DLF took 20 years to graduate to that point to actually have male diaper changing rooms.
My social issues are also changing. The mentalities are also changing, and I think people are a little more aware of that there is a third gender. There is possibly a fourth gender which is existing.
It's a little bit hard for people to digest, is what I'd say. And since Sabi Sola is there, yes.
So I guess with time it will happen.
Yeah,
but it's not an easy job considering all these factors into design.
Very true.
You once spoke about architecture as a systems problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's harder, designing the building or negotiating the invisible networks? That means policies, users, infrastructure. Be honest.
Okay, that's a tough one. I think negotiating the different aspects of things like the systems or the people, the stakeholders involved is something that inherently goes into the design. That is something that you have to inbuild into the design, and the design should speak for itself. Uh, while I mean, we are anyway living with lots of constraints. There's a very stringent fire code. Yeah, there's a very stringent requirement for buildings to function in a certain way, and evacuation, life safety, and all those things which the national grid goes in place. So this basically constrains the design in multiple ways. So Vastu is well in India, yes, but so what is effectively left for an architect to do is, given those constraints, how can I actually put the systems in place so that the underlying systems which are not really tangible out there can function smoothly? These stakeholders don't have issues. The cultural sort of disparity or whatever you can, the cultural setup of the space fits well into the scheme of things. And people are not sort of cribbing about certain things not being there in your design or whatever.
Yeah.
So you have to look into really all those aspects of things, and then inherently sort of, let's just say, have that in the design.
And do you think, has it happened to you that, okay, there was a design which you said, okay, this is what I really want. And then because of policy or because of some approval or because of something that you had to tweak it, and then you're like, okay, whatever, get done with it.
So I think the first design that you do for any project is your best, the best. It's our best foot forward. And after what I like to call it is, it's more like a reductionist approach, that every time you sort of go and deal with stakeholders, you are reducing certain qualities of it, because you really cannot make it better. There may be certain critiques which are constructive, something which are positive, which me probably would have missed out because nobody's perfect anyway. And there are certain things which people tell, okay, you should have this, and this could make it better, or XYZ project has done this, why don't you go and see? And it's a good experience. So, okay, we try and bring that into the design as well after taking inspiration or whatever. But at the same time, every time we develop the design from a concept or schematic to a DD or a GFC stage, you're technically reducing the qualities of it in certain ways. And that is where the struggle is, like how to retain the maximum qualities that your initial design concept had, and taking it through the stages of the design and actually leading it into construction and reality. So we did a small project. It's a school for data science and AI at IIT Roorkee. We got it through a competition. I did the design for it, and for the first time, I sort of took inspiration from my experience at UCL Bartlett. And I was like, okay, we had unassigned toilets, by the way, at Bartlett.
Nice.
So they were gender neutral. There was no specific, like a male or a female or something like that. I could not push for that, but at least I could push for the idea that, the faculties and the students could use the same set of toilets,
Okay.
which is not there in any IIT or any education institution.
And culturally not known in India.
Known. I proposed a common bank of toilets. There is no senior executive. There's a male, there's a female, and there's a disabled friendly. And we said, okay, this is what the future is. The faculties and the students must share the same toilets. Now, IIT backtracked, immediately said, no, this is not possible, because none of the buildings that we have on campus have this. And fortunately, the building is funded by an American organization called the Mehta Family Foundation. Okay. Mr. Mehta was there in that meeting, and he was like, this is what I was wanting. For somebody to come in and actually say that why can't we have gender neutral toilets, or if not gender neutral, at least common exist for the faculties.
And it's a toilet.
Yeah, and then the IIT team kicks in and just says, "Kam se kam HOD ko to toilet de dijiye."
Yeah.
And I was like, "ठीक है, this much I can settle for. We'll give the HOD a separate toilet because he must be having some guests around or whatever who might want their own private toilet, though that's also not required. But eventually, the design is getting built, and the people have the faculties and the students have common sets of toilets."
Yeah, dekho yaar, like what impact does design have while on your mindset also? And vice versa. Like how culturally our mindset is fixed in a certain way reflects in our establishments and our buildings and our surroundings. And if we just tweak the narrative a little bit there, maybe it will change that narrative for the next generation. That like, okay, this is normal, is because that's the way they've seen it.
Yeah.
And it takes that one generation to actually bring it about. Very interesting share here. If we keep chasing FSI maximization, are we heading towards unlivable cities, in your opinion?
Yes.
Mumbai is for sure one example there, but
Couple things there. It's a lot at the policy level. We always hear आप building 2.5 पर design कर रहे हैं, but 3 पर बना दीजिए, FSI बढ़ जाएगा.
yeah,
You know, or leave some brown coverage for the future. We might have additional FAR.
yeah,
The client is not wrong on that footing because he's technically wanting to earn as much as he can out of them as he's invested. But the government at the policy level, at the planning level, must see, like I said, the road widths, must see how much the city can take or absorb, and put a line there, like a draw a line that this is the ceiling. We cannot go beyond this.
yeah.
I don't know. I haven't studied on this, but this is a topic worth researching. How other cities have done it in the world.
It had to be very data to actually go through.
Actually, and they have a ceiling here.
This is in Bangalore recently, and I said, "Yeah, इतना traffic क्यों है? रुकता तो है नहीं." But why is this like this? कि इतनी ज़्यादा तो population नहीं है. Like sir, the city is designed for X. Taxi वाला telling.
Yeah.
City is designed for X. The population is 10X. अभी क्या होना है?
यही होना है.
Like city is designed for X मतलब कितना the streets are and the roads are designed like that. Now again वो ये बस flyovers बन रहे हैं सब जगह.
और कितने बनाओगे?
Limitation है उसका. And it's a beautiful place. It's such beautiful weather, such nice, chilled out people, such nice establishments, beautiful companies, good livable spaces. Everything is fine. Just that road infra is so out of the toss. And now metro is coming and they think that will solve it. I don't think it'll win. So it's just, I don't know. I hope Bangalore doesn't become another case of the overcrowded Mumbai situation. Let's talk about mixed use and the future of it.
Yeah.
Mixed use has become a buzzword, right? For quintessentially, let's say it's in fashion right now.
Yeah.
In your view, what's the biggest mistake developers make while attempting it?
Okay, so there are different takes on this. I have seen my father's perspective change on this in the last 15 years. He did a development in 2008 where he said the retail must be completely segregated from the office in a mixed use development. Okay. In the sense where people are coming to shop, they should not trouble the people who are actually working. No. So we designed a project in Noida, say in 2008, wherein the commercial was separate. I mean, the retail was separate. There was a shopping street and there was an elevated podium where the office people would come or would walk out on. So they were not intermingling with those kind of people.
It's not like Select City Walk, if I'm not wrong.
But Select City Walk offices share the common courtyard at the ground level. No, that's true. So we had a separate courtyard here for the office goers and there was a separate street for the retail people in the same project. Now comes in a picture that, okay, for the newer projects, you would have heard of this, that lots of developers are now collaborating with international architects to get the concept done. So are we as well. So we hired someone called Binoy. It's an organization from the UK, which is an expert on retail and mixed use developments. And we said, okay, help us with the concept. We develop it together. And later we see how things proceed. We were stuck on that idea of having the sort of mutually independent spaces for the retailers and the office goers.
Okay.
In which one of the architects from their side, very, very senior person, Mike, who's a dear friend of my dad now, happens to say that, what's the problem? Why do you want to segregate them? They're people, at the end of the day.
Okay.
And there's this urban designer from Netherlands called Jan Gale, who says people want to see people, but they don't want to rub against people.
Yeah.
So, when you're actually in a mixed-use development, you do want to see them. You don't want to isolate yourself from them. So he said, why don't you let the retail and the office people share the same public park?
Okay.
Let them intermingle there. But when they are in their own bubble, when they're inside their own building, they're in a secure environment.
Yeah.
You would not see the shoppers walking into their offices.
So while they're in the separate worlds, there is that common area.
Yeah. So the design philosophy immediately changed. And we have the new project that we're doing, which was designed in 2021. It's still under construction. We have a public park, which is common for the retailers and the office goers. The office goers are the separate entity in terms of their own building. But there's a mall which sort of cuts through the office towers, which is meant for the public at large. Now, the problem that kicks in is when lots of architects or other developers ask them to design a residential with a commercial at the base.
Yeah.
And without putting much thought into it, we say, okay, this is where the mall this is where the mall people enter, and this is where my house, the residential towers lobby is at the same location, which is not technically sort of a good vision, so to say, because I might be having kids who are walking across to school. They don't want to walk in front of a mall in the morning, So it's about layering of spaces. It's about how do you segregate the different uses. And that is where the design sense comes in. And if you're able to segregate them in a good manner, you've cracked a good design.
I've seen, especially in a lot of big Asian cities, including Singapore, Malaysia. Uh, we went to Seoul. We went to even in Japan now. They have hospitality, and then they have offices, and then they have retail or like a mall. Yeah, that has worked, and each of these buildings is connected with some sort of a transportation form where people can walk from that space itself. Yeah. With an elevated corridor or something, and walk straight into the metro line or wherever. Yeah. Makes commute easy. So the people staying in that building or using that building don't even have to intermingle with the traffic there. And usually happens at the high-end street. Yeah. I personally loved it. You're staying there, you need something, you're right there. Office goers do not mingle with the staff because their paths are separate. They do see them, but they don't mix with the crowd. It's quite well established, well-oiled machine kind of a thing. Very interesting in mixed use terms. If you were given a blank slate for a new Indian city, yeah, आज ये शहर बसाना है हमें, right? What would you ban outright in the master plan? What would I ban outright in master? This is a thinker.
See, we're in a diverse place, and we're having people across, various financial backgrounds. There are people who are actually having their, let's just say, rediwalas or hawkers. There are people, they also need some space. There are rickshawalas, there are autowalas. The city cannot function without them because they also need to survive. They need to sort of thrive in that economical framework.
Say, I disagree, but I mean, I'm not saying that you can kick them out. No, I'm saying let's build a new city and say, let's give them a space.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was coming to. You give them space so that they can thrive, but let's not take a decision of not giving them space, which is their rise in cities. But if it were to ban something outrightly, ideally it should be emitting vehicles, because they take a toll on the city at large, which Delhi, in fact, fortunately, is getting towards.
That is by the end of this year, and the beach in factories.
Factories inside the city, no. I mean, you have abundant land available. Let's just push out all the polluting sort of components in the city, and let's have a city which is meant to live and work and play, and not to produce, manufacture. We could have manufacturing clusters or industrial townships which would be separate. Let's not put them in the city.
Yeah, we are enjoying good air right now in July and August. And then comes September and the festivities. And right after that comes this beauty of like 5 months of the shit's mouth that we live in. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, while I have all the love for Delhi, but I don't know. I seem to hate these 5 months of my life every year.
Likewise.
And then raising my kids in this environment. But anyhow, that's another challenge and a discussion for another day.
Yeah.
What's the one thing Indian architects learn from global practices? And one thing we must absolutely reject. One thing we must learn, and one thing we must absolutely reject with your international exposure and your expertise in India.
Okay. A good learning from them is, like, coming back to the first question that you asked me, was that forget the structure and the MEP for the time being. Okay. Have a basic sense of it, do the design first, and then plug those things in, because there are like plug and play elements, see how it works, which can come in later. It will work. I mean, you can make it work, but let the scheme come out as a design scheme meant for the people first. And obviously the arteries and the veins can come in later, which is basically the MEP services and the columns and all. We can support it later. Okay. But let us first do the design. Okay. That is one, which is one takeaway which you should take from them. Second, a sense of sustainability when you are planning the orientation of the buildings, which largely we miss out because there's just a set bent of mind in the client side कि मुझे building ऐसा चाहिए. The architect must have that conviction or that power to convince the client that no, this is what is more sustainable. Let's just do it this way.
Yeah.
That's number two. One thing we should try to reject is they usually tend to design buildings based on their exposure of the western side of things.
Gosh.
Because lots of class buildings and otherwise also, buildings which are very swanky to look at or tall, because even they want to build a profile, they want to build a portfolio at the end of the day. What we should try and reject is, like, firstly, as Indian architects, we should Indianize the buildings that they do. Take away their concept, definitely, but Indianize it for our own context. Do what is relevant for a tropical country like ours.
Yeah.
And then, probably improve upon that and build upon that. So that is something that we should outrightly reject from what they are giving and then build upon things.
Adding to this and talking about strictly the construction material space.
Yeah.
I came to a realization that when it came to innovation of technology towards products or any kind of technology that was our own, we were actually quite far ahead in terms of our tech years back. There you see establishments which are like extremely impossible for us to do now with all the tech available. And when I see tech, sadly, it's a Western word.
Yeah.
Uh, I think that 200 years of colonial rule sort of hurt our progress in terms of investing ourselves within our own technology. जो हमारे पास था, we actually could not hone it better because of the plundering that we took for 200 years. And then we were left with, starvation, poverty. And it's taken so many years, even today. I think we are still building on that and we are still trying to improve the situations. I think we've been left plundered like ruthlessly. It didn't just take away money, it didn't just take away, it took away our pride also. We forgot what our culture actually was rich at. Zero research within there because there was a disconnect of 200 years and now 75 years on after our independence as well. So we are approaching close to 300 years of completely forgetting our own tech.
Yeah.
Or about tech here, okay, that it has just become something that is okay, what the US is doing. Oh, it is coming from China now. It's not just a Western thing now.
Right.
Oh, Japanese tech. What happened to us? I keep telling this to even building material tech.
Yeah.
POP क्यों बिक रही है? Putties or skin coat. I'm like, great, well done with the white cement play that you've done. Awesome. ठीक है भाई, finish अच्छी आ रही है, we're happy. Why are we trying so hard to look like what a building outside India might look like?
Yeah.
I'm yet to find people within the construction material space who say, boss, ये चौक मिट्टी होती थी, perfect थी. Let's revive that in some way, which can be a sustainable solution and cheaper.
Right.
Do you know there is a cement called L3C developed by IIT Delhi?
No.
So L3C does not use fly ash.
Okay.
It's breaking away from the typical pozzolanic mix that we have, or PPC or whatever it's called. It's developed for a cost-effective solution for low-cost housing within IIT Delhi.
Okay.
It only uses lime. There is no fly ash. Uses a part of cement and other silica-related products. It's cheaper by about 30% than the regular PPC that we buy. And government has funded it. A lot of industries are looking at it. I think it's high time that we start looking at these things now. And I this is one thing that boils my blood a little bit. कि यार हम भूल रहे हैं अपने आप को शायद. अब वो expertise मेरे पास भी नहीं है where I can actually try to just push an agenda and say, let's do this. But maybe in future. Maybe when we grow enough to, kick up some dust in the environment and say, you know what, let's establish our identity. Are Indian architects too obsessed with aesthetics over usability?
Well, I think it's a very personal thing for an architect.
Okay.
I've come across people who are actually obsessed with aesthetics just because they want to get a pretty bunch of pictures to add to their portfolio for sure. And then there are people who are actually careful about the spaces that they design. They do think about the people who are going to use the space and do certain things which might look very basic, very elementary in the.
Let me reframe this question.
Okay.
In another way.
All right.
Do you think people or architects who focus more on aesthetics than usability get more business? It's easier for them to.
Well, I mean, looking at the modern trends of social media engagement and popularity through social media, certainly that's a thing, because if you're doing a good aesthetic, people are out there to like your pinch.
Easily wait for them.
They judge you because you're judging a book by its cover, basically.
Absolutely.
And you're not going to buildings every day to experience them.
Yeah. And you don't know what to experience there, by the way.
You don't even know what you're feeling. So, I mean, in its own sense, architecture is a feeling. Architecture is something that you need to feel, and you can only feel that by being in that space, not judging a book by its cover, looking at 3 pretty pictures, and you're like, okay, hey, this is the architect that I want. And to convince a client to come and visit your site and see with you and feel what you have actually designed from your own mouth, that rarely happens.
Yeah, and I'll tell you a story. A very short one. I've been going to the British Council for since my childhood, college days.
Yeah.
school or college, especially to their library. This time, like 3-4 Sundays back, I was there for some event, and right in the morning for like 2 hours, you were there.
Yeah.
And it's the feminist collective of architects, and they've started the Delhi chapter now. And I was there as attending, and the Delhi book club was also there, right? So it was a collaboration between the two. And after we were done with our meeting, we just walked out, and a friend of mine asked me, "कि तू आया यहाँ पे पहले?" मैं कहा, "हाँ, बचपन में बहुत आया हूँ." He said, "Then you must be admiring this building." I'm like, "ऐसा क्या है? It's just Agra stone and whatever." Like, no, no, no. What? You've not seen the courtyard? I'm like, what courtyard? Piche. And then I went back. Yeah. And then she explained what it was. And she says, now soak it in. Take your 2 minutes, stand here. Exactly. And I swear, there is like magic. It's not because somebody explained it to me. Of course, it's because somebody explained it to me in that way, but I understood what Charles Courier did with it. And then I'm like, okay, this is what a great space is made of. It completely changes your emotion.
Yeah.
It was just immensely beautiful in that simplistic design that was existing there.
Yeah.
And the use of that space and how they use it today. And I just, when I was being told that, I was imagining people actually using that space in that proper way.
So you engage with it the way he thought of it.
Exactly, And I would have never felt like that if I didn't understand the concept. So I do think while it's our job to sell the idea also to the people so that they get it,
Right.
I think the more and more we do that,
Yeah.
they will understand the usability and the function
Right.
of the form.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting, how buildings and spaces can actually change your mindset.
So it's just to come in here. So this takes me back to my second year of college. We had a very interesting faculty, Vashi ma'am. And so she sort of introduced us to a new design problem that we got for a 3-month semester, wherein we were supposed to design a folly.
Okay.
So a folly in essence is a building with no purpose, and it basically serves no function. There is no function assigned, and everybody was sort of allowed to pick a plot wherever you want. Could be in a city, could be in the middle of fields. And the idea was that you come up with an emotion or a feeling, and the design must make you feel that.
Wow. Interesting.
And then there were people who were sort of coming up with the idea of anger, scare, angst, whatever, fear, curiosity, etc. So everybody came up with one word or like a theme or a mood or whatever. And then the design problem started that you have to first come up with what this feeling would feel like. How would you make the end user feel this? And do some case studies on that, on what people have designed to evoke emotions.
Interesting.
And then you design your space, and obviously the jury also happened. We would get credits on that and stuff. And I think that was a very interesting design process to go through. Yeah. And today, all those layers that you've actually sort of learned over the course of 5 years in architecture, undergrad and then masters. So that kicks in when you design, okay, that maybe in this particular zone, I want to infuse a sense of curiosity in the public. There should be an experiential curiosity while walking in. They shouldn't know what's there, what's lying there, but it should reveal itself, things like that. So, and when you start designing, when you start sketching on the paper, and when you are sort of working around with spaces, you create all those things. Now, for a normal person, he might not even realize what's happening, but it's inbuilt in that design.
I asked this question to a guest. I think it was episode 76. And I asked her this question saying, can you design with emotion? Can we design for emotion? And she looked at me incredulously towards the end of the episode and he said, are you sure you've not done architecture? I'm not. I've just been talking to you guys a lot.
Yeah.
And I get where you're coming from. And it just sparks some questions in my brain. Yeah. Can we do this? Can we not do this with design? So yeah, it's something that I think I'm finding connect with for the past 2 years. So it's fun. Do you think Delhi NCR, and for the lack of a better word, is a graveyard of good urban design? What's your take on it? I've been thinking about this for the past few weeks, especially in the rains.
I have a question here.
Please.
Who is doing the urban design? Now, is there somebody actually looking into the urban design side of things? But every resort is gated, boundary walled. We're just working inside that. How many of us are actually engaging beyond it? Or how many of us are actually allowed to engage beyond?
I don't think that Delhi will ever design for something like there's been this master plan for years, which has been miserably failing.
No, see, so, there is a draft master plan for 2041. Yeah. And there's been incredible amount of work that he's done.
Run away with, right? We are looking at 2030 now, maybe.
No, 2041 is a draft, 2040, but we're working on presently is the 2021 master plan. So it's already 4 years past it.
Yeah.
The master plan was done about 20 years ago. We are already 4 years beyond that. 2041 is there, pending as a draft, yet to be implemented. So if there are such delays in the process where we can't even implement a master plan, which is 15 years hence, what are we going to do about urban design anyway?
Can I tell you what the problem is? The problem is the agencies who are supposed to execute it. And I dare say it's the government itself. 100%. You are looking at the MCDs, you're looking at the local police bodies, you're looking at the SDM level issues, you're looking at so many things. They allow establishment of structures. Why? They accept their kickbacks. They allow people to build in unauthorized construction zones. They allow no passing of any structures. And one of the biggest policy problems within Delhi is that they won't allow a lot of these areas to actually get their plans sanctioned. Yeah, it's not allowed. So you can't submit a plan for sanction. If you create a plan saying, okay, आप बना सकते हैं बिल्डिंग या घर बना सकते हैं, but अपना प्लीज नक्शा पास करा लीजिए. Because we live in a environment of, which has always been led by some sort of a money kickback or an interest of financial sort of some kinds, and have power will use kind of a philosophy. Yeah. We have completely screwed up the entire fabric of what Delhi could have been. Yeah. People say South Delhi, with like a lot of pride. South Delhi has regions which are marred with zero trees. Yeah. We have the biggest unauthorized colony in Asia in South Delhi. Yeah. We have zero planning of markets. Nehru Place even today is a fire hazard.
It is.
You look at markets which are, oh God, I don't even know get into the details of it, but you see encroachments everywhere. Slums developing and becoming pakka ghar everywhere. बहुत कुछ हो रहा है यार. And all for the sake of one reason, that we are allowing it to happen. When the Supreme Court or any government judiciary steps in and says, kya hua 2021 ko? And then nobody has an answer. And now the Supreme Court takes a harsh decision, says, एक काम करें, इन सबको सील करो पहले. सील कर दो. Yeah. फिर तो अब लोगों के लाइवलीहुड से इफेक्ट हो रहे हैं. करेक्ट. लोगों के घर टूट रहे हैं. अब झुग्गियां टूट रही हैं. लोग बेघर हो रहे हैं. And now there is going to be a whole political uprising. It's problem of enforcement. जब बन रहा था तब नहीं रोका किसी ने. तब नहीं रोका. तब किकबैक्स देके बना दिया. That is the only problem in Delhi. हमारे यहाँ कोई नाले बने हुए हैं. हमारे यहाँ सैनिटेशन इश्यूज नहीं है अगर ठीक से मैनेज हो जाए तो. आप बिलीव नहीं करेंगे, इफ देयर इज अ ट्रैफिक पुलिस गाय अदर रेड लाइट कभी भी जाम नहीं लगता अगर ठीक से वो अपनी जॉब कर रहा है तो. 100%. आई डोंट थिंक वी नीड देम आल्सो. पुट इन कैमराज इन प्लेस, फाइन्स बना दो, सब अपना सीधा सीधा लाइन से हुआ है. पिछले कुछ साल हुआ है. इट्स गॉट वेयर दुबई में सीधा लाइन नहीं चलते हैं ना. 2 ticks or 2 crosses and you're gone because your license are gone. And the fines are so heavy, it will take your monthly salary out. Then you'd never misbehave. Yeah? There is a way people behave. 100%. So we are stuck at a policy level, and I really dare need to say this. True. A lot of people shy away from it. आज मैं पहली बार बोल रहा हूँ ये बात मेरा. I've just spoken my mind because I find an honest fellow here and we're just talking. If architects don't speak up about the poor policy, and we are right there at the cusp of this, right? If architects don't speak up about poor policy and client greed,
Yeah.
then who will?
See, architects would definitely speak up about it, and they do. But as and when the policies keep changing, where practically there is no engagement of architects in the policy level, they're not really approaching us when they're drafting out policies. The kickbacks are taken, the FARs are increased. Being brutally honest over here. अभी FAR 2 है, कल को 3 हो जाएगा, हमें पता है. We know this will happen. So when you plan for this, why would the Supertech towers pull down? It was evident that the FAR would increase. The developer planned it, flouted the NBC, and got caught in a soup. But there are smarter people who are not flouting the NBC, planning for the future, and making buildings which are designed to take more load. So, at the policy level, they need to take a foot forward and say, this is it. We're not going beyond this. B, there has to be better stakeholder consultation in terms of could be urban designers, could be architects, could be, let's just say public policy stakeholders at a large who are having good experience, or just get people from cities like New York, London, etc., where they've actually capped densities after a point, and take opinions from them, do a wider stakeholder consultation, and then draw a line.
Fair.
But that is not happening. I mean, I personally, being an urban designer, there is an IUDI which is in place, Institute of Urban Designers of India. I'm not a very social person. I'm not engaged pretty much in all of these things. But given the opportunity, I'd love to engage at the policy level and put our foot forward that this is what we want, and you only need to draw a line, because we also need to live in the city.
Yeah.
So let's just sort of say that, okay, we cannot build more than this FAR.
Yeah.
And this is it. Because ultimately we're taking a toll on the city, and we have to define parameters at a national level to control all this.
I dare say, the generations before us took hard decisions. They were of the hard mindset. They worked like their backsides off.
Yeah.
And we are reaping the benefits of them. I think like people of my generation, and like even 10 years before me or 10 years after me, I think we've become a little softer in terms of our approach towards things. And we've enjoyed the perks too much. Zingari aasan hai.
Yeah.
And we've started living that easy way, which will screw up the future of the next generation for sure. Guaranteed. And all in the name of money, by the way. Should every architecture student spend 2 years at least on a construction site before graduating?
Not necessary. This is what I used to feel while I was at SPA.
Okay.
UCL changed my perspective. I myself barely visit sites.
Okay.
I mean, we are working across, let's just say, 16 states in India. And I think my site visits are restricted to 1 in a month. Because if you know what you're drawing, if you know that your drawings are clear, you know what you're doing, you're good to go. You don't really need to visit the site. You need to visit the site before you do a design.
Okay.
Certainly, to understand the space, to understand what the neighborhood is like, do a proper shoot of it and see the contours, etc., the topography and the climate, the orientation and all those kind of things. Understand the neighborhood, understand the context. All of that said and done. Once the design is done, and if what you've drawn is absolutely all right,
Yeah.
and your drawings are fit enough, you don't need to go there.
So that means you do only design, right? You don't do design and build.
No, we don't do design already. Yeah.
Let's have some fun now. What serious baatein ho gayi?
Take care.
All right. So I'm going to give you a rapid fire and then maybe like a short this or that. It'll be fun. Brutalism or parametricism?
I'm a fan of brutalism.
Okay. Ha ha ha. Okay, interesting. One person in the last 2 months I've asked this question. One person says brutalism, and that's you. Chandigarh ya Gurgaon?
Chandigarh.
Better urban model Chandigarh?
Much better.
One project you wish Vastunidhi had designed?
Interesting question. We lost out on a good project, which was the Pragati Maidan.
Okay.
So, I mean,
I rolled down
ARCOP and ADIS did it together. I mean, ADIS has collaborated with us on other projects though. And I'm a decent big fan of ARCOP's works, the age-old ones.
I get it.
But I don't like the boxes that they've come up with. So, sorry for being brutally harsh.
It's an opinion.
Yeah.
One. Okay. Again, this was, I think we did speak about it, but let's hear your take on it. Green certification, real sustainability, or just marketing?
Just marketing.
Fair. More difficult client, is it the developer or government?
Depends. I mean, I've seen private clients who are very difficult and very easy. I've seen government clients who are very easy and very difficult.
If you were to pick one,
IIT was okay. If I were to pick one, let's just say private.
Okay. A building in NCR that you would be happy to see demolished.
Okay. I mean, there's a building at the corner of Barakhamba Road, which always catches my eye.
Or that
RCC building is.
Let's just pull that down. Yes, the answer is some sort of a dispute, right? It's R&D, it is, but it's just like a structure there.
I asked my dad about it. He said it's been there since 30 years. So I might just pull it down. It's a nice con.
Fair, good space to waste, right? Drawing by hand or only digital now?
Both.
I
mean, you cannot come up with everything on a computer. You need to draw.
Interesting. Work-life balance, is it a myth or a reality in architecture?
It's a myth as of now for me.
Okay. One myth,
It's something I want to achieve. Let's just say that.
fair. One myth about Indian architecture that you want to bust.
About Indian architecture or Indian architects.
Indian architecture. You can answer Indian architects also if you want.
Is there something called Indian architecture?
Is there not?
Is there?
Oh. Ooh, interesting. And what about Indian architects?
Trust them more.
Trust them more?
Yeah, this for the clients.
Fair. Okay. So this and that, very boring question. Form or function?
Function.
Glass facades or shaded edges?
Shaded edges.
High rises or mid-rise communities?
Mid-rise community.
I knew the answer to this one. Walkable streets or expressways?
Walkable streets.
Design competitions or direct commissions?
Design competitions.
Reinforced concrete or exposed brick?
Mix of both.
Mix of both. They actually look good well together. Right. Okay. Quick answers only. Do you think Indian cities are designed for people or for cars?
Largely for cars.
Can good architecture survive bad politics?
Yes.
Okay. What's the biggest design mistake you've ever made?
Mistake that I've ever made.
Biggest one. You can actually just tell me one. It's okay.
I don't think
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Well, I missed out on a particular shaft which was supposed to go up till the roof. And I sort of terminated that after like 4-5 floors. And later figured that it was an exhaust shaft which was supposed to go all the way to the terrace. And obviously got screwed by the client for it. That how could we miss this? And it was eating up into the shop space, although the office space. So, I mean, those are the kind of mistakes that we do. So,
Interesting.
at times, but yeah, learning
Honest of you to in time. Yeah, honest of you will say that. Thank you for saying that. Are architects still relevant in the age of AI and developer-driven cities?
100%.
Always will be.
Yes.
What's your hot take? Should we stop building glass towers in India?
If they're mid-rise, it's okay.
Okay. They still get hot.
I mean, there are ways to treat it.
Okay. As a second-gen architect, do you rebel against or embrace the family legacy?
When it comes to design, I'm rebelling against most of the times. When it comes to sort of going with the certain mindset, yes, I'm embracing the legacy as well. Like I'm taking it forward, but at the same time, I'm rebelling when it comes to design.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Shivang, it's been fun talking to you. It's been honest. I have to compliment you on your honest forward approach. मैंने आपको बोला था अभी बीच में रिकॉर्डिंग के कि एक संजीदापन है आपने, which is very nice, and I hope and I wish you well, and I hope that you can maintain this sanjeedapan within you, because I think good times are ahead. So yeah, my best wishes to you. All the best. This was Shivang Bansal. I'm Rishabh Agarwal from The Code, India's #1 construction podcast. If you have any questions, write to me at India's #1 construction podcast @gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram and message me there.